Time for manicures and a murder story. Have you ever heard of the 1984 cheerleader murder? The 80s was a time where being a cheerleader represented the absolute peak of popularity in high school. Whether you loved them or hated them, you were obsessed with them. Kirsten Costas was one such blessed high school sophomore living in Orinda, California, outside of Berkeley. The 15-year-old was a cheerleader and varsity swimmer, well liked by her peers. The petite, pretty brunette was an only child, well-dressed, and described by her friends as witty, sarcastic, and outgoing. In addition to swim team and cheer, the active teen was a member of the Bobolinks, a sorority-like civic group known as the Bobbies. High school was easy for Kirsten, and she was the sort of girl whose name everybody knew. One classmate who was deeply aware and envious of Kirsten's life was Bernadette Prodi. Opposite of Kirsten in many ways, she came from a crowded but modest family of 6, was raised Catholic, and far out of reach of the lifestyle Bernadette dreamed about. While not bullied at school, having her own small social circle, Bernadette was woefully average. She wanted much more, however. What exactly she wanted was to be one of the popular girls, for which life seemed so easy and fun. Precisely, she wanted everything Kirsten had. Bernadette started copying Kirsten in hopes of attaining some of that same shine. Bernadette tried out for the cheerleading squad and interviewed to be a member of the yearbook committee, just like Kirsten, but unlike Kirsten, did not succeed. Bernadette did manage to procure a job at the school office alongside Kirsten, however. To gain favor with the popular girl and her friends, Bernadette did favors for them that would have gotten her in trouble, but was so desperate to be liked, was willing to risk her job. She was also able to join the Bobbies, the civic club that was more dedicated to parties and social events than civic work, that Kirsten was also a member of. Bernadette figured these opportunities of contact with Kirsten would forge a friendship, but the cheerleader had no interest in actually befriending the girl who she saw as a clingy follower. In perfect 1980s style, their interactions came to a head on a ski trip. Bernadette saved hard-earned babysitting money, buying secondhand clothes and borrowing gear so that she could afford to be there. Kirsten, in her brand new, trendy ski ensemble, commented on Bernadette's comparatively shabby things. While her feelings were hurt, the rude comments only hardened Bernadette's resolve to get into Kirsten's good graces. When the school year was finishing up in 1984, Bernadette strategized a plan to finally get Kirsten to like her. While Kirsten was away at a cheerleading camp in June, Bernadette called the Costas home from a payphone, telling Kirsten's mom that there was a secret Bobby's dinner that following Saturday. Bernadette said she would pick Kirsten up at 8:30, but never gave her name. Bernadette lied to her parents that night, asking to use the car for a babysitting job, and she arrived at Kirsten's house on time to pick her up. Kirsten was visibly disappointed to see Bernadette instead of one of her friends, but still got into the car thinking they were going to the dinner for the Bobbies. She again noticed Bernadette's outfit, a tracksuit and worn-out jacket, deducing quickly that they were not actually headed to a dinner. Kirsten confronted Bernadette, who admitted she lied so they could go to a party. During the ride, Kirsten noticed a large knife in Bernadette's car, but was unfazed when Bernadette said her sister apparently kept it there to cut up vegetables. They drove to a nearby town, and Bernadette parked the car in a church lot at Kirsten's request because she wanted to smoke a joint. Bernadette said they were there for 40 minutes, and Kirsten even offered her a hit. Apparently, when Bernadette said no, this is what triggered an argument between the girls that would turn lethal. Later testimony from Kirsten's friends disputed this version of the story, who believed Bernadette would have done anything to gain social acceptance. They claimed Bernadette would not be so independent as to turn down any offer from Kirsten, even to hit a joint. Bernadette said that Kirsten pressed her about the party, and Bernadette explained that she was not invited directly by the host, so Kirsten refused to go with her. She didn't want to go to a party if she had not actually been invited, and Bernadette complained that Kirsten was spoiling everything, while the popular girl said there was nothing to spoil. Bernadette cried, asking why Kirsten wouldn't be her friend, and why she was being so mean. Kirsten apparently rolled her eyes as Bernadette told her how much she looked up to her and tried to be like her. Kirsten's alleged response was that Bernadette was pathetic. At this point in the argument, Kirsten exited the vehicle and walked to the home of a couple she knew who lived nearby, Mary Jane and Alexander Arnold. She told them she had been out with a friend who had started acting weird on her. They let her call her parents, but no one was home, so Alex Arnold offered to drive Kirsten home. His later testimony was that she seemed normal and even talkative about her school and social life, seeming totally unbothered by Bernadette. Bernadette, however, had been watching Kirsten since she left the car. She followed them back to Orinda, thinking about how Kirsten would humiliate Bernadette to the other cool kids about what had happened, and that she had completely wrecked any chance that she probably never had at getting into this golden circle. Bernadette's fear at the thought grew into rage as she drove. When Alex dropped Kirsten off, he stayed parked and waited as the cheerleader did not go inside her house. Kirsten had noticed Bernadette's family Pinto parked on the street nearby, and instead of going home, walked toward the car. Bernadette grabbed the 18-inch butcher knife and approached Kirsten on a neighbor's lawn. Kirsten immediately started backing away from Bernadette, yelling at her to go away, but Bernadette rushed in and stabbed Kirsten twice in the stomach with the huge blade. Kirsten's left hand was damaged with a defensive wound as she tried to fend off the attack. She went down, and Bernadette stabbed Kirsten 2 more times in the back before she ran into the Pinto and sped off. Thinking that Kirsten had just been hit in a fist fight, but not knowing she had been stabbed, Alex followed Bernadette's car. He lost her and headed back toward the scene. Meanwhile, Kirsten was able to get herself to a neighbor's house, banging on the front door as she bled out. Arthur Hillman answered the door to the dying teen and caught her as she collapsed, yelling for his son to call 911. Authorities arrived shortly, and Kirsten was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. Alex Arnold came back and told police what he had seen. He described Bernadette as a teen girl with stringy blonde hair that Kirsten had called her weird friend. Bernadette arrived back to her own home at 10 p.m., certain that the police would be there soon to arrest her, but when that never happened, she went for a walk with her mom. Kirsten Costas was pronounced dead at the hospital at 11 p.m. The 18-inch blade had severed the major artery in her heart. The murder of a young girl in an affluent and usually so safe town rocked the community. Kirsten's funeral saw attendees in the hundreds, one of which was Bernadette Proddy in tears. Investigators interviewed Bernadette along with other students who were given lie detector tests. Even though her results were inconclusive, even though detector tests are inadmissible as court evidence, she could not be said to be guilty nor innocent by its reading. She provided an alibi that police were unable to verify, but did not become a higher priority on their suspect list. They were instead focusing on a goth girl, Nancy Kane, who Kirsten had targeted in bullying. Nancy had once been in Kirsten's social circle, but they fell out and their tension was a well-known fact around the school. Nancy's mother transferred her to a different high school to avoid the rumors stirring about her daughter, who she refused to be allowed to take a lie detector test. After she transferred, the public took this immediately as a sign of her guilt. Police continued to work the case as the new school year started, seeking a profile on Kirsten's murderer from the FBI. Bernadette resumed her regular life as a student and a Bobby, without any notion that she would perhaps be caught. The following October from Kirsten's murder, the FBI delivered their profile. It theorized that the killer was Kirsten's age and would have known her, and, in a shock to authorities working the case, that this killer would not have regret about what she did. Police had been hoping the murderer would break down in guilt and confess to killing the beloved girl. It was the private investigator hired by Kirsten's parents that first noticed the discrepancy in Bernadette's alibi while he was reviewing case files, who actually called the family that she normally babysat for and found out that she was not hired to work the night of Kirsten's murder. Once the detectives received this new information, Bernadette was brought back in for questioning in December of 1984, 6 months after she killed Kirsten. The police read to Bernadette the FBI profile and asked if it sounded like anyone she knew, to which she said, "Me." While they were not able to arrest her without enough evidence, the authorities felt strongly they had found their killer and just needed her to confess, letting the girl know her arrest was imminent. She told them she needed time to think and went back home. Bernadette told her mother she was exhausted and went to her room, but to actually write a letter confessing her crime. She explained that she was able to live with what she had done, but it could not be ignored, and begged her parents to keep loving her. She wrote for them to not ask her why she had done it because she herself did not know. Bernadette handed the letter to her mom and left for school, asking her parents to wait 30 minutes before opening it. When her parents did, they immediately went to the high school to bring Bernadette to the police. In her recorded confession, Bernadette cried that she felt less than Kirsten, who was so popular and confident, and that she embarrassed Bernadette by commenting on her family's poorness, which she was already embarrassed by. The case went to trial with a judge, but no jury, despite the confession. Given her age, the sentencing would be the same, so it didn't matter if Bernadette was convicted of first or second-degree murder. Regardless, her lawyers offered a plea for second-degree murder and was rejected, so 3 days of testimony became a spectacle in the community. The prosecution worked to show that Bernadette's actions were premeditated, pushing for first-degree murder by questioning the strange presence of the massive butcher knife, which Bernadette's sister testified was indeed there for vegetable cutting. The judge did find Bernadette guilty of second-degree murder, but was given the maximum sentence of 9 years on April Fool's Day of 1984. But this was no prank. Bernadette was sent to California Youth Authority in Ventura. The Costas family moved out of California to Alaska, then Hawaii in 1986 to leave behind the trauma they endured of losing a daughter. Bernadette would be paroled after serving 7 of her 9-year sentence, wherein she completed her high school GED. Kirsten's family was staunchly against her release, but was unable to prevent it. Bernadette was just 23 when she left prison on June 10, 1992, nearly 8 years to the day since she stabbed Kirsten Costas to death. A 1994 TV movie was made about the shocking murder, starring blonde Tori Spelling as Kirsten, who was portrayed as needlessly cruel and probably deserving of her fate, while Bernadette was played sympathetically by a brunette Kelly Martin as a nice, quiet girl pushed too far. Since the murder, some have lamented about Kirsten's bullying behavior, but she certainly did not deserve to die. Known to have a sharp sense of humor, she probably never realized the emotional harm she was inflicting upon the debilitatingly insecure Bernadette. No one can say for certain whether the murder was planned that night or not, but teen girls are already in a fragile and unstable state simply by the nature of being a teen girl. Even so, most murders are not committed by teen girls, so the violent nature of the act continues to shock. Bernadette wrote in her journal before deciding to confess, "I have caused a lot of hurt and pain to a lot of people. I don't want to hurt people anymore. I want to go to heaven when I die. I regret what I did. I can't bring Kirsten back or change time. If I kill myself, I will hurt people even more, my family." The confession letter itself read, "Dear Mom and Dad, I have been trying to tell you this all day, but I love you so much it's too hard, so I'm taking the easy way out. The FBI man thinks I did it, and he is right. I've been able to live with it, but I can't ignore it. It's too much for me, and I can't be that deceiving. Please still love me. I can't live unless you love me. I've ruined my life and yours, and I don't know what to do, and I'm ashamed and scared. Bernadette. P.S. Please don't say, how could you, or why, because I don't understand this and I don't know why." Classmates of the girls reacted with shock to the news in a 1985 San Francisco Chronicle article. "I was mad when I heard that. Everyone was," said a girl who had known neither Bernadette nor Kirsten. "Obviously it was premeditated. 5 stab wounds? Come on. To say that the murder wasn't planned, I don't know what they're talking about," said Doug Jordan, a freshman at the time. Bernadette told investigators herself when the news broke, "There are about 500 people who want to shoot me right now." A senior who said he grew up with Kirsten objected to the defense strategy that tried to make her appear less ingenuous by asserting she had smoked marijuana and snorted cocaine. "I don't think that's making Bernadette any more innocent by making Kirsten look bad," he said. "It doesn't do the community any good either." "I don't think she'll come back here," said the 17-year-old senior. "I wouldn't if I was her family. I'd move a long ways away." Clearly, the students at Miramonte High School, as well as Kirsten's parents, were completely traumatized. The crime left an air of distrust and fright for everyone. Bernadette Pratty's proposed release at the age of 25 was still a little light for murdering somebody, Jordan said. Kirsten's father was quoted to the press saying, "I guess my feeling is that the law has been served. I'm not in agreement with the punishment, and I'm not thrilled or pleased. The trial was good from the standpoint of hearing all the facts and evidence. We've lost our daughter. I don't think the punishment will ever match the crime in this case." In 2014, 30 years after the murder, a family friend of both the Costases and the Prattys, Sharon Palmer, posited another theory. She believed Bernadette had a crush on Kirsten, and when rejected from making a pass at her, panicked that everyone would learn her secret. Palmer was interviewed by the Campo Claw in 2014 and explained, "Bernadette was smart, but she had no idea Kirsten wouldn't be interested. Kirsten was like a puppy. She hugged people, wasn't exclusive, and liked everyone," Palmer said. Pratty probably tried to kiss her and it freaked her out. Kirsten was immature and would have told people what happened. 30 years ago, it was a big deal to be a lesbian. At the very least, Prati did admit during the trial, "I thought she was going to tell everybody at school that I was really weird. And when arrested, she told police, she never liked me. The thing that got me mad was that it hurt. She just said stuff that made me feel bad." While there is no proof of Palmer's theory, it certainly does not seem completely outrageous. No one except Bernadette will know what she was thinking when she took that knife and slaughtered Kirsten. People often resent the popular kids, but who we are in high school is so often just a small piece of us. Kirsten's promising life was ironically snuffed out before she could even actually don a cheerleading uniform. Even though it is how she is best known, Kirsten had only secured her spot on the cheer team for the following school year. She was murdered before she could ever officially cheer. They say high school is hell, but can you imagine being driven to murderous obsession by the coolest kid in your class? Ultimately, Bernadette changed her name, left California, and went on to have a family and a career of her own. Finally, having all of the things that Kirsten would never have.